they can be related to the WIA program. And then we will get into the meat of our presentation, which is the WIA grant program and IMG grant program, program requirements, the application, and then we'll open it up for questions. All right, so EFC, we fund New York State's water infrastructure. We are a nation-leading investor in this realm. So we just have a few stats here for you. Since 1990, EFC has provided $41.2 billion to wastewater projects. For drinking water projects since 1996, EFC and DOH have provided $11.2 billion. And through the WIA IMG program, we provided $3.4 billion in water grants to over 1,200 projects since the inception of this program in 2015. We offer a few different options. Obviously, the state revolving funds. So for clean water and drinking water, these programs provide low-cost capital for sewer, wastewater, and water projects throughout the state and include short and long-term financing options with varied interest rates. And then we also have a variety of water grants that are available. So not just the WIA IMG program, but some other programs that we talk about in other presentations and won't get into too much detail here. But if you're interested, we have information at the end of the presentation about where you can find more information. And just to briefly go over the types of financings that are available, since some of you may be thinking about combining your WIA or IMG application with our financing program through the SRF, we offer market rate subsidized or interest-free financing depending on certain requirements. So for market rate financing, this is based on EFC's bond rating for projects with a score that's below the subsidy lines in our intended use plans. For subsidized financing, the rates are a little bit different between drinking water and clean water. So for drinking water, it's 33.5% reduction on projects. And for clean water, it's a 50% reduction. And those are for projects that are above the subsidy line on the intended use plans. And then interest-free financing or 0% hardship financing, you may have heard it referred to, is available for projects that meet our hardship criteria for both the clean water and drinking water programs. And just for awareness, in case you were interested, for the current IUP for 2026, the drinking water subsidy line was drawn at 60 points. And the clean water intended use plan did not have a subsidy line. So all projects on the IUP that were not considered hardship and were above 10 points were able to come in for subsidized financing. And in case there's anybody on the webinar who's thinking, Mary, you're talking about the SRF, State Revolving Fund, what actually is that? This is a cool graphic that we created to try to visualize what the SRFs are. So the state revolving funds come from a few different buckets. So we receive seed money from the EPA and the state of New York through what are called capitalization grants. That's the bulk of our funding. And then we also receive proceeds from our bonds and repayments. And those are combined to create the state revolving funds. So this helps us provide low cost funding for wastewater and drinking water projects. And it also helps us provide low interest rates for bond repayments for projects that are currently being financed through EFC and DOH. The purpose of the revolving funds, it's called a revolving fund because it is meant to continue in perpetuity. So the state of New York is meant to provide this funding to communities across the state for these projects for as long as they need to, so for the rest of time. So that was a brief overview about our SRF program. Like I said, we will be doing future webinars about the SRFs and the intended use plan. We also have other webinars available for our other programs, but today we want to focus as much time as we can on the WIA IMG program, because that's why you're all here. And I will now turn it over to Liz.
Great. Thanks, Mayor. So I'm Liz Ritchie. I am a program manager in our engineering division at EFC. So I primarily focus on the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. But today I'm just going to give you an overview on the WIA and the IMG program. This grant program is set aside for infrastructure projects that protect public health or and/or improve water quality or address emerging contaminants. So really any project that would be eligible under the Clean Water State Revolving Fund and Drinking Water State Revolving Fund would be eligible, and we'll go through that in a little bit more detail. These grants can be paired with EFC's financial assistance through both SRF programs for low and zero interest financing. And this year we've made $425 million available for these grants. So the folks that are eligible would be municipalities, and so that's defined as, you know, county, city, town, village, but we can also award grants to district corporations, school districts, Indian Nation or tribes within a reservation wholly within New York State, public benefit corporation, or a public authority. And then for these projects, they have to lead to the construction of a capital improvement project. They have to be for municipally owned sewage treatment works or public water systems. But it could also be, you know, upgrading your project to comply with permit requirements or public health laws. It could be system upgrades for emerging contaminants such as PFAS or 1,4-dioxane. Could be upgrading your sewer system to address combined or sanitary sewer overflow impacts, or lead service line inventories and replacement projects. So there are a couple criteria, gating criteria also to determine eligibility for these grants. As I mentioned, they must result in construction of the requested project. So that means, like, we can't fund a grant specifically only for planning and design. We can certainly fund those costs as long as your project scope also includes the construction of the project. It can't be for construction of a project that exclusively supports residential or commercial development. Your project could include that as one of the components, but it can't be the only component of your project. You must not have started construction or issue a notice to proceed before October 1st, 2024 for the construction of the project. So we want these grants to go towards new projects and incentivize projects to move forward. You cannot have completed construction before June 10th, 2026. And then lastly, just be aware that our EFC terms and conditions must be included in all executed contracts to be eligible. So when we're evaluating grant applications and scoring, we're looking at these factors. The biggest part of our program is really giving grants towards projects that are going to have a water quality improvement or reduction of risks to public health. We're going to look at the financial needs of the community, readiness to move forward towards construction, whether your project has demonstrated governmental and community support, and we'll also evaluate impacts to disadvantaged communities or environmental justice areas.
All right, so for a WIA Clean Water grant, we wanted to provide some information about how those grants are calculated. And I do just want to bring attention to anybody who has applied for the program in the past. This is a change to how we previously calculated grant. So just want to say that now so we can emphasize this. But the grant will be calculated based on total eligible project costs minus any added contingency from your application. So that's what we determined to be the net eligible project costs. And then based on that, we calculate your grant amount. So for clean water projects through the WIA program, municipalities can be awarded 25% of the total eligible project costs, which includes the cost for all phases of the project, up to $25 million. And there is a cap on the number of projects. So no more than 2 projects can be awarded to a municipality. If applying for more than one, EFC will prioritize the award based on the score of the project until the projects have received the 25% of net eligible project costs or the $25 million cap per municipality has been reached. And so the calculation, based on our new definition of net eligible project costs, if you have a $10 million project, 25% of that would be 2.5 million. So that would be the max grant eligible. And so just to reiterate, the net eligible project costs are just based on the total project cost minus any added contingency from your application. We are not backing out outside grants or co-funding in this round. So any third-party grants will not be backed out of the eligible project costs that we use to calculate your WIA grant. And to just give you some examples of clean water WIA projects, you can use the WIA funding for the construction, repair, rehabilitation, or replacement of wastewater treatment facilities or sanitary sewers. CSOs, combined sewer overflow, and sanitary sewer overflow, or SSO projects that reduce discharges of rainwater and untreated sewage. New sanitary sewer infrastructure to replace on-site septic systems, or sludge treatment or disposal facilities are types of projects that can be eligible for WIA. There's also the Enhanced WIA Award, which is only for clean water projects. So for any project that is considered small, rural, and disadvantaged, that would mean a population of less than 3,500, and the community is considered hardship or meets our hardship criteria. The project could qualify for the Enhanced Award, which will fund up to 50% of net eligible project costs, up to 25 million. So for a regular WIA Clean Water and Enhanced WIA Award, the cap is 25 million, but the percentages are different. So for a regular WIA, it's 25% on the clean water side, and for the Enhanced WIA for clean water, it can be 50%. And now I'll turn it over to Ashley to go over the drinking water side.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is Ashley Hyde. I work for a program manager for the Bureau of Water Supply Protection for the New York State Department of Health. We help administer the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund and the WIA program. I'll focus today on just the WIA drinking water component to things here. So examples of projects are construction, upgrades, or replacement of drinking water infrastructure. If your water system is experiencing violations, we can help bring that your water system back into compliance, or prevent violations, future violations if you're kind of on the brink there. We can help extend water mains to private wells if they're experiencing contamination issues or yield issues. We can help with PFOA and PFAS and 1,4-dioxane treatment, those emerging contaminants. And for the first time ever, we're offering a component for lead service line inventories and replacements here on WIA. So I will go ahead and dive into the lead service line. So sorry, I just lost my place here. So sorry about that. Okay, so in general, the same eligibilities as our federal grant, if you're familiar with those. So we can fund inventories, 100% of net eligible project costs up to 2 million, and replacement projects, 70% of net eligible project costs up to 10 million. We can only fund lead service line replacement work and costs here. Anything that's added on to or is not directly related to lead service line inventories or replacement is not eligible and will not be considered a lead service line project. So we can't fund additional work like water main replacement or meters or anything with this particular funding. That would be considered a regular WIA project. And any municipality that was previously awarded any of our federal lead service line grant funding is not eligible for this. And just so you know, realize it's a pretty quick turnaround for the application this year, and we are waiving the seeker, the environmental review, and the State Historic Preservation Office letter is usually required and is required for regular drinking WIA projects, but not for the WIA lead service line projects. So let's talk a little bit more about the emerging contaminants side of things. If your water system is experiencing PFAS levels, so PFOA or PFAS above the new federal maximum contaminant level, or the state level for 1,4-dioxane, you could get 70% of net eligible project costs covered with no cap. If your water system are below those limits, you can receive 70% of net eligible project costs. But again, we have that $5 million cap. So there's no cap for those ones exceeding maximum contaminant levels. There is a cap for those under those levels. And for non-WIA and non-emerging contaminant projects, will be the lesser amount of 5 million or 70% of net eligible project costs. And as Mayor noted earlier, the same change in calculations that apply to clean water WIA are also applied to the drinking water program. So we're back subtracting the contingencies to get the net eligible project costs. Our percentages are a little bit different from the drinking water program. We're doing 70% up to 5 million. And that $5 million cap is in any combination of, if you're receiving federal grant from us or WIA grant, there is a $5 million cap unless it's a emerging contaminant or lead service line project.
My name is Christina Lee. I work on the team with Mayor. I'm a program reporting coordinator at EFC. And I'm gonna talk about intermunicipal grants, or IMG. IMG is for more than one municipality undertaking a capital improvement project jointly, such as a shared water quality infrastructure project, consolidation of intermunicipal facilities, such as regional facilities, the interconnection of multiple municipal water systems. And this is available for both drinking water and clean water. In addition, you must have a current, valid, and binding project intermunicipal agreement, or IMA, between at least two cooperating municipalities related to the financing and implementation of the project. The IMA should include details about the cost share responsibilities for each cooperating municipality. The IMG grant award. So something new for this year in the 2026 round, applicants do not need to complete a separate application for IMG. We will determine eligibility based on the application and applicable required documents submitted with the application. This includes the IMA I just mentioned. Municipalities will be awarded 40% of total net project costs up to 30 million. One municipality must be the lead municipality and apply on behalf of all cooperating municipalities. Each municipality is limited to receiving no more than 10 million allocation per year. As mentioned previously, which is new this year, third-party grants will not be backed out, which we had done previously, of the total eligible project costs. So the calculation is total eligible project cost minus added contingency from the application is the net eligible project costs. And in this example, showing 10 million for the net eligible project costs with 40%, has the max grant eligibility of 4 million. For IMG, the award amount is 40% up to 30 million. IMG project evaluation criteria. EFC and DOH will consider factors such as water quality improvement or reduction in risk to public health, readiness to advance to construction, level of demonstrated community support, the benefits to multiple municipalities, and impact to disadvantaged communities and potential environmental justice areas. Eligibility criteria for IMG. Projects must result in construction for the requested scope, not for construction of infrastructure that exclusively supports residential or commercial development, must not have issued a notice to proceed before October 1st, 2024 for construction of the project, and must not have completed construction before June 10th, 2026. And for any executed contracts, EFC terms and condition is required. EFC terms and conditions can be found on our website at efc.ny.gov under resources, and then popular documents and forms. Some examples of clean water IMG projects are consolidation of 2 existing treatment plants to a single jointly owned facility to treat flows from both municipalities, or construction of jointly owned interreceptor sewer and regional pump stations to convey flows from multiple collection systems to shared treatment facility. And some examples of a drinking water IMG project are interconnection of multiple municipal water systems to provide source redundancy and improve water quality, or construction of shared advanced treatment systems to address PFAS contamination in source water supply. Then I'm going to pass it back off to Liz to talk a little bit about WIA IMG program requirements.
All right, great. So we mentioned a couple times that contracts that are executed for your project have to be in compliance with the EFC terms and conditions. So depending on how you apply for funding may change a little bit the requirements that are applicable to your project. But in general, all awarded projects must at least comply with the following requirements on the left-hand side of the screen. So all projects must complete an environmental review, and that's the seeker and SHPO process. But as Ashley noted, seeker and SHPO are not required for lead service line projects. That's the only exception. Otherwise, your review has to be completed for all other applications. You have to comply with smart growth. The smart growth process has been incorporated into our application. So there's just a series of questions that have to be answered as part of your submittal. The project has to comply with minority and women-owned business enterprise. We're going to talk about the goals for that program on an upcoming slide. We'll go into a little bit more detail. Your project has to comply with Equal Employment Opportunity, EEO, and must also comply with the architectural and engineering procurement requirement as well. Of note, though, if your project is using SRF financing, so you're choosing to couple your awarded grant with a financing through our program, there's a couple additional federal requirements that you should be aware of. On your construction contracts, they need to comply with American Iron and Steel and also the Davis-Bacon federal prevailing wage rates. But if you think you're just going to move forward with an awarded WIA or IMG grant and choose to fund the balance of the project yourself and you don't need SRF financing, those additional federal requirements don't apply, but there is an additional state requirement called our service disabled veteran-owned business enterprise that would need to be followed in addition to our MWBE requirement. So again, any contract that's going to be paid for with WIA, IMG, or SRF financial assistance must demonstrate compliance with the program requirements. So you do that by making sure that the EFC terms and conditions are included as an attachment in those contracts. As Christina mentioned, those are available on our website, and they are specific to the type of funding that you'll think you'll use with us. We have staff that are available to help guide you in what version to use. So when in doubt, definitely reach out to us at EFC and we can help guide you a little bit more. So any contracts that do not include the SRF terms and conditions, including those that are executed prior to grant agreement, they will not be eligible for funding. So we really want to make you aware of this to make sure that you don't have any choice limiting actions where you set yourself up to having certain costs not be eligible for funding. So the MWB and SDVOB goals do change a little bit depending on the type of funding that you are using. So if you are awarded a grant and then you choose to couple that with SRF assistance, the MWBE participation goal is 20%, and that's going to be 20% of the entire financing amount. But if you only move forward with a grant agreement and you don't use SRF financial assistance, the MWB participation goal is 30%, but that's going to be 30% of your grant award, not the total project cost. So that there is a nuance there. But you'll also have a 6% SDVOB participation goal.
All right, so now that we've gone through what WIA IMG is and the program requirements, we'll talk about how to actually apply. So here's a QR code to our website where you can find a number of documents. The most important, I would urge everybody to take a look if you haven't already, is our grant summary. That breaks down, it has all of the requirements that we talked about on this webinar, but also breaks down some further information about the program, the awards, and the requirements. To apply for WIA, there are two types of applications depending on how you choose to move forward. You can submit a combined application for WIA IMG and the SRF. So that is if you would like to couple your grant with SRF financing to help fill out all of your project costs. So you would pick that if you are anticipating needing to finance the portion of your project that is not covered by the WIA or IMG grant. If you decide you do not need to access the SRF financing, that you will be able to fund the gap between the WIA IMG grant and the total project costs on your own, then you would choose to apply as a WIA IMG grant only. So the questions are a little bit different depending on which route you take. So consider how you would like to move forward and choose from one of those applications. You would then identify if you are applying for a clean water or a drinking water project. And throughout the process, you could save progress on the application. So our application is on an online portal that allows you to start the application, save it at any time, and go back to it. It does also allow you to share the application. So if you have multiple individuals working on it, you could do that as well. I want to emphasize the deadline for the applications. They are due July 27th, which is a Monday at 4 p.m. And again, just really want to emphasize that July 27th at 4 p.m. If you have any questions as you're filling out the application, please reach out to us directly and we'll have our email address up here shortly. But we also want to mention that we will have a WIA IMG application walkthrough video posted on our website on Monday. We do have a prior video from the last round that is available that has similar information. So if you would like to take a look at that today after the presentation, you can, but the 2026 round video will be up on Monday. And that's a helpful resource because it actually walks through filling out an application. And that's for both the WIA SRF combined app and the grant only application. So it can help you see what the application looks like. It goes through the logic of the application. So it tells you, depending how you answer questions, what other information you'll need to answer, and just provides helpful guidance on how to navigate the application. And we will stop there. So our email addresses are here. So if you have a question about the WIA IMG program, please reach out to nyswatergrants@efc.ny.gov. Both EFC and DOH staff monitor that mailbox. So for both the clean water and drinking water programs, you can use the water grants mailbox. But if you have specific questions about the drinking water SRF program in particular, we would recommend reaching out to design@health.ny.gov. So I'll leave this up here while we go to questions. We'll open it up for questions. So if you haven't put a question in and you would like to, please feel free to do so. I will just navigate to our questions and we'll go from there. So our first question is there a cap for the number of open grants per municipality? For example, if we have a WIA from 2022 and IMG from 2024, could we apply for this round of WIA? The answer is there is no cap on the number of open grants or awards that you can have. It just can't be for the same project. So if you had a project that was awarded in previous years, you cannot reapply for that project. But if a municipality has multiple projects and you already have awards on other projects and you have a new project that you want to apply for, then you are welcome to apply for WIA or IMG. The next question is the enhanced WIA subject to both population and disadvantaged communities, or do you only need to meet one criteria to be eligible? It is subject to both. So you have to be serving a population of 3,500 or less, and you have to be considered a hardship community based on the hardship policy. And again, that's just for clean water projects. So enhanced WIA, the 50% grant, is only available to clean water projects that meet both the population of 3,500 or less and the hardship criteria. Let's see, are other EC projects such as for manganese eligible? Ashley, we'll turn that to you.
Yes, well, manganese can, depending on the levels, I guess. So if you have a specific issue going on at your water system, please feel free to reach out to that design@health.ny.gov email and provide a little bit more specifics, and I can give you a more firmer answer. But yes, it is considered an emerging contaminant. We have funded them before, but the details matter. So I'd gladly review your project info if you send an email over. I'm the one that monitors that email, so we'll get you a response quickly.
Thanks, Ashley. And there's another question that Ashley did answer in the chat, but I'll just read it out loud in case anyone missed it. So the question was for the inventory portion of the lead service line. It says up to 100% of the eligible project costs with a $2 million cap. Does this mean there is no matching requirement? The answer to that is yes, that's correct. It's 100% grant, so there is no match required, and 100% up to $2 million. Just want to emphasize that. Another question, given the change regarding contingency, should projects still include a 30% contingency in the budget estimates included in the application? Yes, we would recommend that you continue to do that, as that has been how we have currently recommended that you estimate contingency. So say yes. There's a question in here related to lead service line. Seeker and SHPO are not required for the lead service line applications, but I presume that the capacity development and smart growth forms are still required per the engineering report outline. So engineering reports are a required document for all of the WIA applications. So you want to make sure that your engineering report does meet the engineering report outline. Just to emphasize what Liz had said, that the smart growth questions are incorporated into the application, so you can answer those directly in the application. But yes, make sure that your engineering reports match the engineering report outlines for each of the programs.
Mary, I do have I think our engineering guidance is a little outdated and still says the smart growth form is required. So maybe that's where that question is coming from. But back to Mayor's answer, that is now included in the application. Thanks.
Thanks, Ashley. All right. So another question for lead service line. To further define lead service line eligible project costs, does a replacement project require a comprehensive inventory, or can the request include inventory and replacement? Can a municipality apply for regular WIA up to 5 million and lead service line inventory up to 2 million at the same time? And does an inventory that documents GLSRR with an unknown upstream provide adequate documentation for lead service line replacement projects to include main and public private service laterals?
Okay, that is
It's a long question.
long question. Let me take it section by section here. Does a replacement project require comprehensive inventory? Can the request include? So yes, you can submit both an inventory and a replacement project. The replacement projects must only include the known service lines. So we can't be funding any unknowns. You have to know where they are. So like I said, you can do it would be a separate application for an inventory project and a separate application for replacement if you're submitting for both. We can accept it in one engineering report as long as everything in our guidance is included in the one report. You can also apply to the regular WIA base program with lead service line work. If you choose to combine lead service line work with other work at the water system, your score will vary. If it's just a lead service line replacement for the base WIA program, your score will likely be pretty low. So there's just some strategic things to think about there. If you have any questions, I can walk you through that. Offline, does the inventory that documents galvanized lead service lines required for replacement within a known upstream provide? So we want to remove all lead. So whether it's required or not, or proposed or not, we want to address the lead. So our whole goal is to remove all the lead, including the galvanized lead service lines that are required for replacement. And for this funding, we're trying to replace both the public and private side.
Thanks, Ashley. The next question, can any funding be used to create an engineer's report for the water system? No, so the WIA IMG program is not for the creation of engineering reports, since those are a required document to actually apply. It's a gatekeeping document. For clean water projects, EFC does have what's called the Engineering Planning Grant Program. There are some criteria, eligibility criteria related to that, so we can reach out directly and send you some additional information. Next question, are letters of support required or encouraged for the lead service line applications? They are good supports for other WIA applications. So the letters of support would be treated for the lead service line applications the same as all WIA IMG applications. So while they are not required, they are strongly encouraged. So if you would like to get letters of support, we would strongly recommend that you do that, but they are not required to submit. We have a question in here related to population for the enhanced award. So if the applicant is a municipality with a population greater than 3,500, but the proposed project is limited to a sewer district or other defined sewer service area that serves fewer than 3,500 people, can the project be evaluated based on the population of the sewer district rather than the municipality's total population for purposes of determining eligibility for the enhanced WIA funding? If so, what documentation does EFC require to support this? We will reach out to you directly to talk more about this. I think the question depends on a couple of different factors. So we'll make sure that we reach out to get more information and walk through what we would require here.
Mayor, can I circle back to the manganese question real quick?
Yes, sure.
Okay, I mixed up my funding sources, and I just want to manganese is considered for our federal funding emerging contaminant grant, but for WIA emerging contaminants, it's just for 1,4-dioxane and PFAS, but would be considered for a regular WIA project. My bad.
Thanks, Ashley. That's okay. There's a lot of funding streams. All right, the next question, can these grants be combined with FAST New York funding through ESD for infrastructure projects? So yes, like we said, the calculation will not be backing out any third-party grant. So our WIA or IMG award calculation will simply be based on the total project costs minus any contingency included in your application's budget. So that's what we will determine your percentage for grant. On the WIA portal, under the required documents, it's asking for district formation documentation. But in a situation where the project does not have any district formation. So we are actually fixing that. That's a bug that we found this morning. Our IT group is currently working on it. So the district formation documentation will only be required if you answer yes to the question that specifically asks, is district formation required for the project? So we are aware of that bug. We are fixing it. It should be fixed by the end of the day today. So thank you for bearing with us on that. There's a question in here about what documents do we require as proof of municipal site control. That we, I'll have to take that back and just check in with our legal group to make sure to identify the specific document that they might need. So I will answer you directly after this webinar. We'll make sure we get back to you on that. Another question, we're supporting a municipality that has asbestos line pipes. At the moment, tests are below the legal thresholds, but there have been arsenic problems in the past. Are these eligible water quality concerns for the WIA drinking water program?
Yes, those water main replacements and treatment of arsenic are eligible projects through the WIA program. We would need a engineering report kind of outlining the details of the situation there and proposed solutions to remedy those. But yes, they are in general eligible.
Thanks, Ashley. Next question. We've been told by EFC that a grant application submitted early can be reviewed for completeness. Please provide guidance on how early this submission needs to be submitted to have opportunity for review. An additional submission, also explain if an applicant submits fully or notifies EFC that ready for completeness evaluation prior to submission. It is true if you submit your application early, there is the opportunity that it can be reviewed ahead of time, or at least a cursory review can be conducted. As far as guidance for how early, we would recommend as early as possible. So as the deadlines get closer, it becomes more difficult for us to evaluate or do a cursory review of the application ahead of time, just because the volume of applications getting submitted heavily increases, especially in that last week. So we would emphasize getting them in as early as possible. You also can reach out at any time to our water grants mailbox and ask questions of the staff that monitor it. If you are, if you would just like some guidance as far as your documentation that you have, if you want us to take a look at things to let you know if they would be considered, acceptable, we can do that as well. So we would highly recommend that if you would like EFC to look at any documents or do a cursory review, that you reach out to us as soon as possible or as early as possible. And we can work with you on being able to do that. We get a number of questions ahead of time that ask specifically, things about bond resolutions or the IMAs. So if you have questions, when in doubt, just reach out to us and we can work with you directly. If a municipality has previously submitted an SRAP application to EFC, is a combined WIA SRAP application still required? And can a WIA grant be awarded to a project with an executed PFA? So for the first question, yes, the combined WIA SRAP application is still required. The reason for that, we did update the SRF component of the application significantly ahead of this round. So there may be some additional questions that need to be answered or at least updated. You can, however, copy over answers from your previous SRF application if you submitted that in the portal previously. So it's less data entry that you have to do, but we are asking for anyone who is applying for WIA SRF to submit that combined application, even if you've already submitted the SRF application, just so we have you in the new SRF application question, so we have that information. And can a WIA grant be awarded to a project with an executed PFA? If the project is in a closed short term, they could be eligible as long as the project is within those criteria that we talked about throughout the presentation. So you can't have issued a notice to proceed before October 1st, 2024, and the project cannot have completed construction by June 10th, 2026. So as long as the project is within the parameters and it's in a short term, it can still potentially be awarded WIA. Is there any benefit to including additional materials beyond the required documents when applying, such as a map and plan in addition to the engineering report? Yes, we would emphasize providing and encourage providing any documentation that you think would help your application. So while we have those required documents, if there's supplemental information that you think will fill in some context for us or just provide additional support for the application, feel free to do so. We do have an option in the portal of a number of different documentation that we've seen over the years that you can choose from. And we also have an option that is kind of like a miscellaneous option that you can upload. So yes, we would encourage you to submit any documents that you think would help support your application.
Yeah, I'll add to that, especially anything that documents how you've advanced the project beyond planning. So if you've moved forward into design or you have progress plans and specs or something, I think those items should be included as options in the drop down, like Mayor said. But that's, I think, the biggest one that would benefit a project and something that you should consider uploading if there's something that really documents well that you've made some advancements on your project.
All right, for clean water, do I understand correctly that all projects listed on the IUP are eligible for subsidized financing regardless of score? A project is listed on the multi-year list. It is an extension of municipal sewer to replace septic. So in order to be eligible for financing for the intended use plan, the project needs to be on the annual list. So in this case, since the project is on the multi-year list under the current IUP, you would not be eligible for financing. But if you were on the annual list, then you would be. So if you want to reach out to us to talk about this specific project, we'd be happy to talk through it and identify what your next steps might be.
And I'll just add to that, that you do not have to be on the annual list intended use plan for either program to apply for WIA. So don't think you can't apply. Just in particular, the 2026 IUP, there is no any funding lines, so everyone can get subsidized financing, and we're currently beginning our process to review the 2027 IUP. So yeah, if you want to send us info on your project, we can always look to see, what next steps would be.
All right, our next question. It was noted that seeker and SHPO are not necessary for WIA-led service line projects this application round, assuming that seeker and SHPO are still necessary when if applying for SREF financing. Yes, that is correct. If it's a lead service line inventory or replacement project, though, that is combining SRF, those documents are not required. We EFC and DOH will do a blanket seeker and SHPO for the inventory and replacement projects once those are awarded. But if you are applying for regular SRF financing on other projects or, any of the other WIA IMG project types, the seeker and SHPO are still required. So the exclusion is only for the lead service line applications. Can the WIA clean water application be used to help fund a larger project? I'm not sure that I necessarily understand the question, but we don't have any limit on the total dollar amount for a project, so total project costs. There are just those limits on the amount of grant that we can provide. So take a look at that. And if you have additional questions or if there's more context for your question, feel free to reach out to us directly and we can address that.
Yeah, I'll just add one more thing that sometimes we see larger, sewer infrastructure being conducted at the same time of a much larger, like say, streetscape project. I don't know if that's the context you mean for larger project. If that is the case, we do back out ineligible costs before calculating your net eligible costs. So Certainly your sewer scope could be part of a larger project, but we're only going to give you a WIA grant based on the eligible scope that would be a municipally owned sewage treatment project.
All right, our next question, can lead service line replacement only apply to an inventory project, or does it have to result in replacement? Can a future application be for replacement, for example, if an inventory project is first?
Municipalities can either apply for an inventory project or a replacement project, or they could apply for both. Can a future application be replacement, for example? I mean, this is the first year that we're offering this lead service line specific funding through the WIA grant. I can't make any guarantees for future years, so I can't guarantee there will be another round of WIA lead service line. So, and this is the final year, unless the application was submitted by May 29th for our federal lead service line funding. That is also the last year of that funding. So I'm not sure what the future of lead service line funding will look like from here forward. So I can't answer future applications, but municipalities are allowed to apply for inventory or replacement projects or both.
Thanks, Ashley. Another question. If a municipality previously received an IJIP grant for a lead service line inventory or replacement work, could the lead service line project that was awarded an IJIP grant or a different lead service line project without a previous IJIP grant be considered under the non-EC and non-lead service line project base WIA grant category?
Taking a minute to wrap my head around that one. If a municipality was previously awarded IJA grant, then they would not be eligible for this WIA lead service line funding. So could the project be awarded? If you had a different lead service line project without IJA grant, you could apply for the WIA base program. And yes, those caps apply. I think I got it, Jaren. Thanks.
Thanks, Ashley. All right, will you please confirm I heard correctly that recipients of the lead service line IJIP funded projects are not eligible for this round of WIA grants? If yes, is that also true for those projects recently listed that may receive IJIP funds for the next federal fiscal year, but at this time is unknown? Go ahead, Ashley. I saw you on mute.
Sorry. Let's see. So if you're a municipality that received IJA or a bill grant before, you would not be eligible for this WIA lead service line grant. With that said, there was awards that were made just prior to the announcement of WIA, and several of those projects received loan only. If you happen to be one of those projects that received loan only through the IJA or bill lead service line program, you could be eligible for the WIA lead service line grant. Let's see, recently for the folks that applied for this last round of IJA lead service line funding, we have awards ready to go, but we have not been able to actually award those funds. So we'll on the back end, we will look to see who we have ready queued up for the IJA program and compare it to the WIA program, and we'll be in touch if needed.
Thanks, Ashley. Another question, we'll do one or two more questions. A municipality hoping to purchase a privately owned drinking water system with frequent violations, would this be eligible under WIA, or does this fall under the DWSRF?
For folks looking to purchase a water system, was it privately owned? Sorry, I can't see I don't know where the question is.
Yes, purchase a privately owned drinking water system with frequent violations.
So yes, both the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund and the WIA program can fund purchase of water systems, but not just the purchase only. We would also have to include capital improvements to the water system as well. So it has to be the purchase included and including the work that needs to be done to address the violations. We can't just do the purchase only.
Thank you. And I think this will be our last question. We have a lot of, we have more questions in the chat, but we'll make sure we get to those directly after the presentation. Last question, is the project eligible to submit an SRF financing application if it was just submitted to the federal fiscal year 27 IUP list this year? It is a new project and was not listed on the 26 IUP list. So if you're applying for WIA and planning on needing SRF funding, so you want to do the combined WIA SRF, the answer is yes, you can apply. We would just need to see where your project was on the IUP in order to actually move forward with the SRF financing. So like I said earlier, you'll need to be on the annual list to be eligible for financing. But we know a lot of projects are, applying for WIA and presuming that in the future they'll use SRF to fill the gap between the WIA grant and their total project cost. So you can submit that combined application. And if you are awarded, then the EFC or DOH project team would work with you to work on next steps. So like I said, we're at our time. It's 1 o'clock. We have other questions in the chat. We will make sure that we respond to you directly. So don't worry, we will answer your question. If you have any other questions as you think about this presentation or review the documentation that's available, please feel free to reach out to us. Again, our email is nyswatergrants@efc.ny.gov. We will be posting this presentation on our website, and the application walkthrough video will also be available on Monday. Thanks everyone for joining, and we hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you.